Hey guys, it's the Bottom Line View here to do part 2 of Fantasy Football Tips and Tricks 2014. It's on to the running backs, the premier fantasy scorers for your team in fantasy, the most important position people like to say in fantasy football. And to start off, these are rankings based off of standard fantasy football scoring systems, but I also included some players that are great in PPR leagues and sleepers, busts, and the top 25 running backs of 2014. So let's get into it. In case you missed my quarterback rankings and tips, please go check that out. I posted that about a week ago, so hope you guys enjoyed that video, and on to this one. Top 25 running backs of 2014. Number 25, I have Rashad Jennings. Rashad Jennings is now in a new place in New York, and I think he's going to get the starting position, the most carries for the Giants. Of course, they will use a running back by committee approach, but Rashad Jennings will be the number one guy there, getting the most touches in their offense. Usually running backs do produce in their system, minus last year where their running back position was just a mess. And they're going to be relying on Rashad for a lot of their rushing attack because last year it was just terrible, as I said, and Eli was forced to throw the ball way too much, which caused him to throw a lot of interceptions, the most in the league last year. And Rashad has been proven that he can carry the load, even though he has been a backup for the majority of his career. He's proven that he can do it when he's been able to step in. And he might not be the flashiest running back, but he might be a fantasy steal this year for running backs. So he's number 25. Number 24 is another guy in a new place, and that's Ben Tate, the Cleveland Browns running back. Ben Tate last year played a lot for the Texans because Foster got hurt, and he looked pretty good. But the difference here is Houston runs a zone blocking scheme that it's actually very good for running. Foster and Tate were great in that scheme. But does Cleveland run the same scheme? I don't think so. Okay, think about it. When was the last time that Cleveland really had a good running back? Geez, it's been a long time since the Browns, or I guess Peyton Hillis, you could say that one season he was good, but he's a way different type of back than Ben Tate. The last few years, the Browns have struggled on the ground. Their offensive line is decent, but I just don't see Ben Tate as a running back that's going to put up big numbers. He may prove me wrong. I still have him at 24 because of the potential of him doing great things in Cleveland. Maybe if the quarterback position is better this year, if Hoyer or Manziel or whoever starts there plays well, maybe that will open up the run game for him. And I could see him doing well, but I wouldn't bank on it, so that's why I have him at 24, as opposed to a lot of people who have him in like their top 15. So Ben Tate's number 24 for me. Number 23 is another guy that a lot of people like, but again, I just am not impressed with him. Another former Cleveland Browns running back, Trent Richardson, first round pick. Obviously, the Browns traded him away because they didn't think he was the guy. He's really nothing special in my opinion. Just a running back that came out of a great program out of college, and really he's nothing special to me. Trent Richardson struggled last year. Donald Brown played very well for the Colts when he did play. Trent Richardson was trash, really. His yards per carry was very low. He didn't get as many carries because the Colts didn't really think he was anything special. Again, like the Browns, they realized what they gave up for him, and they were disappointed in his results. Trent Richardson, he will be given the opportunities again this year. That's one thing that you will get from Trent Richardson, is that he will be given the carries and he will be given the touches to be able to succeed, but will he succeed is the question. So number 23 is Trent Richardson. Number 22 is a former 2,000-yard rusher, Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson, now at the Jets, first season away from Tennessee. It's going to be interesting because I still believe Chris Johnson has speed and he still has talent. So, Chris Johnson is one of my sleepers this year. Watching the Jets, I always watch the Jets, a lot of their games. They've always had great rushers, great running backs, and had a good rushing attack. So, will Chris Johnson be a product of that system as well? Will it give him new legs to be able to get back to 1,000-yard form, back to his 5 yards per carry, back to his long breaking runs? Last year and a couple years now, Tennessee hasn't had a great offensive line. They haven't been supporting Chris with basically Chris would be getting the ball, and a lot of times Tennessee doesn't have a quarterback, so they're stacking the box against him, and they don't have the offensive line to hold against these defensive line pursuits, and because they know that the run's coming. And now with the Jets, I think it will be different because they do have a good offensive line. Rex Ryan loves to run the ball. I think Chris Johnson will do well this year, and it's just a matter of if he has his legs still or not. I think he does, and Chris Johnson might be a sleeper this year, so keep him on your board. Number 22. 22 was Chris Johnson. 21 is Ryan Matthews. Ryan Matthews. Up to last year, damn, fantasy owners hated this guy because every year, oh my gosh, Ryan Matthews is going to be top 10 running backs this year. He's going to be a beast. He's such a beast. The Chargers running back, Ryan Matthews. He's the next coming of LT, whatever. Ever since he was drafted, he had high expectations. Now, since last year, those expectations went way down. And last year, he was one of those running backs where, hey, this guy was always supposed to be a top 10 running back. Why don't I pick him? Because maybe he might produce that for me. Last year, he was pretty good. Not top 10, but he was good. Ryan Matthews this year is more in the in-between level. He's not top 10, and he's not bottom. So this year, people expect what they got from him last year. Will that happen? Really, I don't know. I think he's a solid running back, especially in PPR leagues, because Phillip Rivers loves to throw to his running backs. Ryan Matthews gets a lot of catches, same as Danny Woodhead. But Danny Woodhead will be taking away from his carries as well. Same as Donald Brown is there as well. So I think Ryan Matthews will take a little bit of a step back, but I think he's still a solid sleeper in 2014 fantasy. So keep him in mind as well. Next we have Ray Rice. Damn, this guy has really screwed up his career. There have been a lot of things gone wrong with Ray Rice. Last year he didn't have a good season, and then this past off season, he had that incident. I'll just leave it at incident. Ray Rice on the football field now. People will say that Bernard Pierce may be starting now because Ray Rice is going to be out for 2 games. He's suspended for 2 games. But I still think Ray Rice is more talented. Ray Rice, just 2 years ago, was a top 3 running back in the NFL. So this year, I think he has motivation. I think the Ravens are better as an offense. Um, he could be one of those guys like Ryan Matthews was last year. He could be a top 10 running back this year. Do I take a chance on him now that he's dropped in rankings? Sure. I wouldn't mind you taking it, especially if he's going to fall because he's suspended. Store him on your bench and see what he can do. Because Ray Rice has talent, and let's just see where it goes from here. Next is my boy, my New England Patriot, Stevan Ridley. Stevan Ridley, he's had his issues, okay? He's had his fumbling issues, his injury issues. But 2 years ago, with that great offense that they had, he had 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns. Last year, dropped because the offense dropped. They were still third in scoring, but LeGarrette Blount was there. He's not there anymore. Shane Vereen is there, but he's more of a pass-catching running back. Sure, he'll take carries away from Ridley, but Ridley is still the number one rushing running back. And he's going to get the goal line carries, not like Blount did. Blount took a lot away from him last year. I think without Blount, Ridley is going to get his opportunity. He's still a very talented running back. I love his style of play, and hopefully if he cuts down on his fumbles, he will be able to play like a starting running back for the New England Patriots. If he starts fumbling, then consider Shane Vereen. But Stevan Ridley will produce this year. I could see 10 touchdowns and 1,000 yards for him. So Stevan Ridley is just above Ray Rice on the rankings. Next is the Cardinals running back, Andre Ellington. So the Cardinals kind of the past ever since they had Adrian James, I think they've been alternating running backs just every year. Okay, who's next? The while there, they had Beanie Wells. You know, they just keep alternating running backs. Will Ellington be another running back from the Cardinal system that doesn't produce? I don't know. They have, like last year, they got a new coach. So last year, their running backs didn't produce either. So Ellington, I believe in you. I hope you do well this season. Will I be picking you this season? No. I won't be picking you. Do you have potential? Yes. That's why I'm ranking you this high on the list. A lot of people believe in you to produce. And he can produce. He has talent. I think he'll get a lot of reception for those of you in a PPR league. And touchdowns will be his too. So you never know, man. He could be a breakout this year. That's why people are so high on him. I don't know what number we're at. Number 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17 is Zach Stacey. Zach Stacey, last year I had the pleasure of having him on one of my fantasy teams, and he did awesome for me. This year, though, he is not a secret anymore. He is Zach Stacey. The rusher that rushed, he had a shitload, and I mean a shitload of carries last year. This guy had 25 plus carries a game. He is a workhorse. Will they believe in him this year? See, that is my problem with the Rams. They don't believe in their running back from last year that was a stud. So this is why I ranked him so low. They don't believe in him. That's my problem. Zach is talented. He's not the most athletic running back. He's more of a hard-nosed running style running back that's like a workhorse, take 25 carries a game. But I would still consider picking him, especially if he falls to this type of number on this list. Will he? Probably not. I have him ranked a lot lower than a lot of people. So would I pick him in the first, second, third round? No. Fourth round, yes. I really just the Rams not believing in him is my number one issue and enough for me to stay away from him. Next is Frank Gore. Now, people may say this is a little too high for Frank Gore, but every single season that I can remember, this has been a little bit too high for Frank Gore. Frank Gore is a little man that's proven everybody wrong. Frank Gore is one of my favorite running backs that I've ever seen. He is a tough guy, and he can do everything that an offense wants. Frank Gore is still the #1 running back at San Fran, still on one of the best rushing attacks in the league under Coach Harbaugh and Colin Kaepernick at quarterback. They got a great offensive line. He will still get touchdowns. He will still get carries. He will still get catches. Frank Gore is not slowing down. He is a beast. Okay? Frank Gore, I would consider picking this guy. Just because he's not a first or second round running back anymore, okay? He's like a 4th round, if you're in a strategy where you're picking running back, wide receiver, like me, or wide receiver, running back, or wide receiver, whatever it is, wide receiver, quarterback, and you need a running back in the 4th round to be a starter. That is Frank Gore. Next, another guy that is similar to Ryan Matthews last year. Has all the talent in the world, super fast, breakaway speed. I've seen it firsthand. CJ Spiller is legit, okay? He may get hurt. He may not get the carries because he splits them with Fred Jackson. This year, he's going to get carries, don't worry. Fred Jackson got 1 year older. I know every year it's the same thing. But CJ Spiller is entering his prime. And he is going to break out this year. I truly believe he could be a top 5 running back this year. And I ranked him pretty low still for me having so much faith in him. But he has so much potential that, again, with Frank Gore, you're willing to spend a 3rd or 4th round pick if you need a starting running back. Go for CJ Spiller because he's going to be there and he's going to produce. Why I related him to Ryan Matthews, he's one of those guys that he could have, like 2 years ago, 1 year ago, he was a top 10 running back. Now he's he's a top 20 running back, so he moved down quite a bit. CJ Spiller, believe in him. Giovani Bernard is next. A running back that I think will get a lot more opportunity than last year. He showed some great quickness. Very quick player, fast, smart. He can catch the ball in the backfield. He's going to be better in PPR leagues because Ben Jarvis won't take away from his carries in that or catches in that. Sorry. But Bernard, I think, is going to be the #1 running back. They believe in him. They like him. Will he get goal line touches, which is holding back his value as a top 10 running back? If Ben Jarvis wasn't there, Ben Jarvis is a very good goal line running back. But Giovani is going to get most of the carries from his own 1 to their 2-yard line. So I would 3rd round, Giovani Bernard still there. I would take him. Next, Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush is more up here because of his PPR value, but still, standard leagues, Reggie Bush. I believe in Reggie Bush, one of my favorite running backs of all time. Just an absolute freak athlete. Was excellent last year in the Lions offense. Again, he got hurt, which slowed his progress in that offense. But again, this year, they added more weapons to that offense. They love him in Detroit. Yes, you do have Bell there, but Bush is the #1 guy, and he is way more talented, in my opinion, than Bell. Reggie is still going to produce. I expect 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, 60 catches. Reggie Bush is a beast. Next, we have Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell, the Pittsburgh Steelers starting running back. Whew. Last year, he was pretty good. When he did come into the Steelers offense, was he hurt or suspended? but he was out for a while at the beginning of the season, and he still produced pretty well. But this year he does have LeGarrette Blount there, which is going to take away from his carries. I believe in that. But they're still going to rely heavily on the rushing attack, so he's still going to get a lot of carries and way more catches than Blount. So Bell will produce more in PPR leagues, but still, he's an excellent pick in standard because you know that he's young, he's going to get his carries, he's going to get his touchdowns, and he's in a pretty good offense with Big Ben and Antonio Brown there, Heath Miller as well. So, second round running back Le'Veon Bell is a good choice. Doug Martin. Doug Martin is a guy that I lost a lot of faith in. I used to think that he could have been a top 5 running back in the NFL. I was proven wrong last year. Not just because he got hurt, but because his numbers before getting hurt weren't good. Maybe it was because the offense that he was in, but I still think he has talent. So, that being said, I wouldn't rank him this high if I still didn't believe in Doug Martin's ability. Their offense did get a lot better this offseason. It's hard to say for me. I wouldn't personally pick Doug Martin, but he could be one of those guys, like I've been saying throughout, that could give you top 5 value. So, Doug Martin, do your homework in Doug Martin. Montee Ball is next. A lot of people that really are hoping for Knowshon Moreno success from last year. Do I think he's going to be as good as Knowshon Moreno? A lot of people say he's better than Knowshon Moreno. If I was basing it on last year, the games that I watched him play, the carries that I saw him take, I don't think Montee Ball is anything special. But if I'm looking for like an offense that will produce a solid running back, I'm going with Denver because Peyton Manning is going to put his running back in the best situation possible. So Montee Ball is a safe pick in my opinion, even though he's first year starting. He's got Peyton Manning at quarterback, so he's a safe pick. Next, we have Alfred Morris, the Washington Redskins running back. 2 years ago, was second in the league in rushing, just behind Adrian Peterson's almost record-breaking year. Alfred Morris is going to regain his fantasy stardom, I believe, because RG3 is there now, fully healthy. You have Deshaun Jackson, number 1 key information for Alfred Morris. You have Deshaun Jackson, who's going to stretch the field. He's going to stretch the defense. And what does that do for a running back? That opens everything up. You also have Pierre Garçon, a very good tight end. And Alfred Morris is going to have a big year. I believe in his abilities, and I believe in that offense. I believe in RG3. I think Alfred Morris is going to have a big year. So if you need a starting running back, second round, Alfred Morris is him. Next, this might be shocking for some people. Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch is only in my top 8 because first of all, he's holding out. He's at that age where running backs usually go downhill. A lot of things have happened in the offseason. I don't think the Seahawks offense will be as good as it was last year, and I don't think Marshawn will be as big of a part of it as he was last year. I think they'll rely more on Russell Wilson. And besides Marshawn Lynch, I think Marshawn Lynch will go down quite a bit in fantasy standards. But do I still think he's going to put up numbers? Yes, of course. They're still a very good offense, and Marshawn, whenever he decides to get back, will produce for them. He just needs to get all his contract stuff out of the way, get back on the practice field. That shortened training camp's going to hurt him a bit. But Marshawn Lynch, I still expect to be a first-round running back. Demarco Murray surprisingly jumps into the top 7 fantasy running backs because he's good in standard and he's good in PPR. He's even better in PPR because he catches so many passes. Just in that Dallas offense, they'll put the ball in his hands even more this year. Tony Romo doesn't have the same weapons he did the last couple of years, but that offense is still very, very good. DeMarco Murray, I always said, barring injury, is a great running back. And going with him in the first round, if you really want a running back in the first round, I'd go for him. Or if you're sitting at the back of the first round, if you're at pick 11, 12, or 10, yeah, I'd consider him in the first round, maybe the second round if he's still there. So DeMarco Murray is a solid first or second running back. Very solid second running back. Arian Foster is number 6. A lot of people don't believe in Arian Foster this year, just because last year they thought that was it. That's his ceiling. 2 years ago they thought that's the ceiling. This year, or this past year, he got hurt, and that's going to hurt him this year. I don't believe that it will hurt him that much. I think the new coach, O'Brien, is an offensive mastermind. He's brought in, or there's a new quarterback there, Fitzpatrick. Andre Johnson is still there. You got DeAndre Hopkins. But they're going to rely more on Foster. There's no Tate. There's no Tate there. So Foster is going to get 90% of the carries in that offense, and probably the third most receptions on the team. So think about that. Number 5 is Eddie Lacy. Eddie Lacy is a monster. I didn't know how good he was going to be because of that system that he was in college. I didn't know how good he would produce in the NFL, but man, this guy is a beast. Yes, he doesn't catch a lot of passes, but especially for standard, he should be in your top 4 maybe. Eddie Lacy is going to put up a lot of touchdowns in that offense and a lot of yards. That's why he's number 5. Simple as that. It's got Aaron Rodgers, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, the whole thing there. Number 4 is Matt Forte, especially in PPR leagues. Matt Forte is, in my opinion, the best pass-catching running back in the NFL. But standard, he's still very good. They might pass a little bit more this year, which would be a reason for concern, but he's still a very good running back. They're still going to give him the ball. He doesn't have any competition for carries, and he's Matt Fulton, so he's number 4. Number 3 is Lesean Shady McCoy. The reason why I have Lesean at 3 and not 1 or 2 is because I believe Darren Sproles will take away from his carries and his catches this year. Darren Sproles is an excellent pass-catching running back and game breaker. But LeSean McCoy is still top 3 running backs in the NFL. Extremely elusive, and he can do everything. So the Eagles love him, and I love him this year. LeSean McCoy, I would take in the top 3. Adrian Peterson is number 2. The reason why I have Adrian Peterson at number 2 and not a guy like Forte or McCoy is consistency. Adrian Peterson has been consistent for his whole career, and the people talking about his age, think about Adrian Peterson for a second. The guy came back from an ACL in less than half of a year, and he freaking put up 2,000 yards. That is incredible, okay? Now, he might be 29 or 30, but he's Adrian Peterson. He's in the shape of a 26-year-old. So don't worry about that so much. Worry about consistency. And Adrian Peterson has put up 1,000 yards every single year of his career. Next, we have Jamaal Charles. Jamaal Charles, the number 1 running back for 2014 in both standard and PPR. is the reason why I have him at the overall #1 running back. Um, what can I say? The guy was an absolute monster last season. Uh, the MVP of his team, the reason why they made the playoffs, the reason why they won some of their games. That one game against Oakland was absolutely ridiculous. Like, I think he put up 67 or 70 fantasy points. That was insane. I was mind blown. But Jamaal Charles is going to produce again this year. He's in his prime, and he still has his speed. As long as he has his speed, as long as he's in Andy Reid's system, he's going to produce like a beast. So I expect Jamaal Charles to be the #1 fantasy running back this season. Now, on to sleepers, busts, and PPR beasts. We are going to talk about some sleepers. I already talked about them in my top 25, but here are some that may not be there and are there. Frank Gore, as I talked about, Ray Rice, Stephen Ridley, Chris Johnson, a Oakland running back. I'm not sure which one. It could be Maurice Jones-Drew, and it could be Darren McFadden. But one of them, I think, is going to have a big season. Because if one, maybe both of them will have good seasons. But that's going to help a lot, just that they're going to split carries. And if one of them gets hurt and takes the load, I think that's a potential big sleeper as long as they stay healthy. D'Angelo Williams is another sleeper because he's the starting running back in Carolina. They like him in Carolina. Cam Newton likes him, and he's going to be starting there. So he's another sleeper late in drafts to pick as a potential handcuff for some of your other running backs. Busts, I have Lynch, like I said. Martin, like I said. Stacey, Ellington, Richardson, Tate. All for reasons stated before. PPR beasts. Okay, so if you're in a PPR league, these are some running backs to pay attention to and maybe rated higher on your board. Darren Sproles, just look at his numbers. That's all I gotta say. Last year he dropped off a bit, but this year he's in Philly's offense, and sure, Mccoy will take away from him, but he's still a weapon that's going to be utilized in Kelly's system. Pierre Thomas is a huge sleeper for me. I should have put him in the sleepers and PPR beasts category because he was a PPR beast last year. He's going to be again, and I'm not a believer in Ingram, so he could be the starting running back there. So definitely look out for him. Steven Jackson, another guy that's going to be starting in Atlanta, catches a lot of passes. Barring injury, he could have a good season. Danny Woodhead, last year, PPR monster. He was a starting running back for me last year in PPR leagues. He put up touchdowns, surprisingly, Danny Woodhead, and receptions, a ton of receptions. I think he had games where he had 10 receptions, 9 receptions, 2 touchdown games. So look out for Danny Woodhead. Shane Vereen, like I said, the pass-catching running back for the New England Patriots, they're going to utilize him a lot this year. If he wasn't hurt, he would have ended up with the second most receptions for running backs last year. Ryan Matthews, as I said. CJ Spiller, like I said. Giovani Bernard, Reggie Bush, Montee, Demarco Murray, Matt Forte, and Jamaal Charles, all PPR beasts to look out for in your drafts and maybe higher on your boards. So that's been the fantasy football tips and tricks for running backs 2014. I'm going to do wide receivers, tight ends, defense, individual defensive players, overall strategy. So keep look out for that. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and peace.